You were in a conversation recently, a real one, with a real person, and something felt different. Not bad, not distant, just different from what you remember conversations feeling like. Like something in the air had changed. Not between you and the person, around both of you. The person was present. They were listening. They were saying the right things. And still, something felt slightly off. Like both of you had gotten slightly better at performing connection and slightly less practiced at just having it. You didn't say anything, neither did they, but you felt it. And you felt it more than once. Not with everyone, not all the time, but enough times to notice that something in how people meet each other is quietly changing.
Here's what's actually shifting. People haven't become colder. They haven't become less interested in each other. If anything, they've gotten better at communicating, better at responding thoughtfully, better at knowing what to say, better at presenting themselves in ways that land well. And that's not a bad thing. But something has changed in the texture of the moments that happen between people. When no one is performing, when nothing is being optimized, when the exchange is just two people being unfinished together. Those moments are becoming rarer. Not because people are hiding, because the habit of reaching for the better version, the cleaner response, the more considered reaction, the smoother presence, has quietly extended from online to everywhere. And connection, the kind that actually lands, has always lived in the unpolished parts. The moment someone says something wrong, the pause before they know what they think, the version of them that hasn't had time to refine itself yet. That's where people actually meet each other. And that space is getting smaller.
Before we begin, if you value quiet, thoughtful content like this, subscribing helps this channel grow and makes it possible to keep creating videos without noise or hype. Thank you for being here. Now, let's begin.
This didn't start with AI. It started when life became more editable. When you could draft the message before sending it. When you could think about how something would land before it left you. When the gap between the raw version of yourself and the version you put out became something you could control. AI didn't create that gap. It just made it wider and faster and easier to live inside. And the question now isn't whether the gap exists. It's whether you still know what's on the other side of it. Whether the unfinished version of you, the one that hasn't checked, hasn't refined, hasn't considered how it lands, is still someone you let other people meet. Think about a conversation where you felt actually met by someone. Not impressed, not helped, met. Where something you said landed on someone who was really there. Unprepared, unscripted, responding from wherever they actually were. Not the version of them that had considered what to say. The version that was still arriving. That's a specific kind of contact. And it only happens when both people are present in the unfinished sense. When neither of you has had a chance to smooth the edges. Now think about how often that kind of contact happens compared to a few years ago. Not because people care less, because most interactions now move through a layer of consideration that wasn't always there. A moment, sometimes half a second.
Contact becomes a little more performed, and performance becomes a little easier to mistake for connection. Here's the specific thing AI changed. Not the quality of what people say, the reference point for what sounds right. Because the more you read responses that are well-phrased, emotionally attuned, perfectly calibrated to the situation, the more that becomes what a good response sounds like. And the more that becomes the standard, the more actual human responses, the ones that are fumbled, slightly off, not quite landing, start to feel like they're falling short. So people adjust. Not consciously, not to impress anyone, just because the model of what communication should feel like has quietly shifted. And now, even in conversations that have nothing to do with AI, people start filtering themselves toward a version of communication that sounds like it has already been optimized, without realizing they're doing it. That's what changed. Not that people are less authentic, that the idea of what authentic sounds like is being quietly redefined.
If this feels familiar so far, not as information, but as something you've been dealing with, we keep a growing collection of prompts, tools, and simple frameworks designed to help you think more clearly, start more easily, and work better in this environment. We add to it over time. Nothing overwhelming, just practical resources you can return to when you need them. If you want access, you will find it in the description. Now, let's continue.
Here's what's still true. Real connection doesn't feel optimized. It feels slightly off, a little uneven, like two people reaching toward each other before either of them had time to prepare. That's not a flaw in the connection. That's the connection itself. And the way to keep it isn't complicated. It just requires staying in the unfinished version of the conversation long enough for the other person to feel that they're actually with you, not with the version of you that checked how you were coming across. That's still possible. Not everywhere, not every time. But in the moments when it matters most, when someone needs to know they're actually being heard, not just responded to, the unfinished version is the only one that can do that. And the people who still let themselves be there aren't doing something unusual. They're just not disappearing behind the edited version before anyone gets a chance to meet them.
When was the last time someone met the unfinished version of you? Something is changing in how people show up for each other. Not dramatically, not irreversibly, but the space where connection actually happens. The unscripted moment, the unpolished response, the version of you that arrived before you were ready. That space is getting harder to find. Not because people don't want it, because the tools and habits that shape how we communicate have made the alternative so much easier. And easier, when it comes to being present, isn't always better. The question worth sitting with isn't whether AI changes how we connect. It's whether you're still choosing, in the moments that matter, to show up as someone who hasn't been optimized yet. That's still a choice, every time. And this series started with a question about what AI is quietly changing in humans. This is where that question lands. Not in what we produce, in how we meet each other. And whether what meets other people is still recognizably us.
If you made it this far, it means this topic matters to you. In the next video, we continue building on this with clearer understanding, practical perspective, and ideas you can actually use. Following the channel really helps us keep developing content like this and adding more resources over time. The next video continues from here. You can watch it now.